Hey, this is Prometheus, guys, and I wanted to cover MUT Draft Champions. Obviously, with the Madden Challenge coming soon, a lot of people are going to be using this mode, and I've actually been studying the draft extensively over the last couple of years, and there is a algorithm or formula that the draft follows, and there are basically when you do a draft in MUT drafts, you want to be concerned about only eight rounds only. Those are the rounds that you want to be concerned about. Everything else is going to fall into place. So the purpose of this video, guys, is to get you some insight on the rounds that matter and the rounds you don't really have to be concerned about, so you can optimize your team. So let's go ahead and jump into that. So the most important thing to know is that when you're actually picking a team, you're going to have a guaranteed quarterback, a guaranteed running back. You're going to have a guaranteed 2 wide receivers. You're also going to have 2 offensive lines, draft choices, where they're just going to be strictly offensive lines, and then you're going to have a guaranteed tight end position. So these are going to be the positions that you know that regardless of the 3 guys that you select, you're going to get that particular position. Now in defense, you're going to get guaranteed 4 defensive backs. So you're going to have 2 corners, 2 safeties. You're going to have that guaranteed pick. You're also going to have 2 linebackers. So you can have an option of only linebackers as one of your picks. And then the last spot is going to be defensive end. Now there are actually going to be 8 rounds. 8 particular rounds. They're going to basically build out the rest of your team. So you're going to have to fill out maybe a couple of your linebacker positions. You're going to have to fill out maybe your lineman positions too. So your right end, your left end, maybe another defensive tackle, depending on the type of scheme that you want to go and run with. And then the final position is going to essentially be that slot corner. You know, are you going to have that slot corner so you can run your nickel packages? So those are going to be the open spots out of those 8 rounds. Now, offensively, you're going to have offensive linemen. You're going to have 3 spots offensive linemen. You're going to have your running back, and potentially a slot receiver too. Now, there's going to be one round which is going to be essentially the skill position round. This is going to be a round where you can choose between a halfback or a tight end or a wide receiver. My personal belief is I prefer to actually draft a tight end in this particular round. And the reason why is I can take that tight end, I can play him at tight end, I can put him at wide receiver, or I can put him at the fullback position. So that's just my personal preference. But this is going to be a skill position round that you have to take in consideration. Now, you're also going to have the lineman rounds, and this is going to be either defensive linemen or it's going to essentially be offensive linemen. So the structure of your teams, whether you want to have a really stout offensive line or basically if you're going to have a really stout defensive line, is going to be determined in these rounds. And you can always determine that by, you're going to have an offensive lineman and 2 defenders, or you're going to have 2 offensive linemen and 1 defender, and it's usually defensive lineman. You might get a linebacker, but for the most part it's going to be defensive linemen or offensive linemen. And these are going to be 3 rounds where you can actually build out your offensive line. So if you want 5 offensive linemen, you're going to have to burn at least 2 of these 3 rounds with offensive linemen, and then hopefully fill in the gaps with that. You're going to have 2 defensive elite rounds. These are going to be basically the high-end defenders. So they're going to be a defensive lineman, a DB, a linebacker, but these guys typically are like 95 plus type players, really elite players that you're going to have. So you're going to get these type of players right here, and these are going to be in the later rounds. So this is where you're going to be able to fill in the gaps of those slot positions or those linebacker positions. So you want to remember that when you're building your team out. Conversely, you're also going to have offensive linemen. So you can have 2 offensive rounds where you're going to have elite players. Now, I know that this is probably unpopular, but one of these rounds is going to have an offensive lineman that's going to be someone that's going to be 90 plus. But typically you're going to have all your skill position players already on your team. So I typically will draft an elite offensive lineman in that particular round. You're also going to get one that's going to be kind of a wild card, where you're going to either get a running back, you might get a crazy tight end, or a wide receiver. And this is going to be where it's going to kind of stack your team with an additional player that might not actually be on the field every time. So this is what I've discovered. You really need to focus on those 8 rounds, which is going to be the offensive the rounds with the offensive linemen. It's going to be you have 3 rounds where you have a choice of offensive or defensive linemen. You're going to get basically 2 rounds with elite offensive players, 2 rounds with basically elite defensive players, and then you're going to obviously have a round where it's going to be a halfback, tight end, or wide receiver. So guys, if you're building your teams, start paying attention to this. Start really tracking your results, and you're going to find you're going to be able to fill out your roster much better with this. Now I'm going to talk about some of the strategies I use in Draft Champions as far as how I draft my team and the players and positions I think are better. So take a look at the next video I'll post up. So once again, thank you for your support, guys. Until next time.